We say that generational players come along once in a generation. That is the definition, literally, of a generational player. Well, we may be on pace towards having another one of those, but this video is not going to be the video to conclude that. This video, instead, is going to be a video educating you on who exactly this player is, just based off of his analytical profile and media perception. Because the way things are shaping up, this player could become the next best thing in the NHL. So much to the point that, as far back as 2 years ago, people were saying that he had the potential to be following the same light as Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid. What is up, viewer? The Watch Your Arcs back here, and today we're going to be talking about Connor Bedard. Now, I've made videos about guys who are going to be great in the NHL draft years in the future. We talked about Savoy, we talked about Wright, we talked about Lambert, but these guys are 2022 guys. So for the first time on my channel, we're featuring somebody who is going to be drafted in 2023. And the reason he is notable is because just yesterday, he became the first player ever to receive exceptional status in the WHL. What is exceptional status? It is the status given to special hockey players that allows them to play in the CHL a year before players in their age group normally would. The only other players to get exceptional status have been John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, Connor McDavid, Joe Veleno, Sean Day, and Shane Wright. There isn't a long list, and the guys who have been on that list are pretty notable. Connor Bedard is looking to be the next best player in line, and in fact, he's the first guy to get exceptional status for the WHL. Let's talk a little bit about what Connor Bedard is about, and to do that, we'll bring up this article here from Ken Campbell in the Hockey News from November of 2018. Meet the future of hockey, 13-year-old Connor Bedard. He's drawing comparisons to Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid. Agents are already knocking on his door, and he looks bound for exceptional status in the WHL. Connor Bedard is the next phenom, whose name you should know. The article then goes over what exactly makes Connor Bedard so special and how his skills work themselves onto the score sheet. I could spend ages talking about the fluid skating, the shot, the puck skills, the vision, the IQ, and the overall body of skills that makes Connor Bedard such a valuable prospect. But instead, I want to take a look at just the numbers because that can kind of tell a little bit more of a different story. Connor Bedard, in the most recent season of play, scored 84 points in 36 Canadian Sports School Hockey League games. He was 14 the entire season. This is notable because he was first in the league in scoring, and this league is a league for 17, 18-year-old players. He led the league in points and goals as a guy who was 3-4 years younger than everybody else. You want to talk about comparisons with other players? Let's talk about Matthew Savoy, a guy who a lot of people pegged as a franchise talent in the 2022 draft. When Matthew Savoy was a 13-year-old hockey player, he played in the Canadian Sports School Bantam Hockey League, and he had 97 points in 30 games played. Connor Bedard played in the same league a year ago. He was also 13 years old. He had 88 points in 30 games played. Now, why exactly am I using this as a comparison when Savoy had more points than Bedard did? Well, it's because Bedard had 64 goals as a Bantam player, and Savoy was playing with Dylan Guenther, who ended up becoming the first overall WHL draft pick and is dominating the WHL today. Savoy was in a position where he was in a great elite duo in the Bantam League with an eventual WHL star. Bedard had no one else helping him out, and he had a very similar point production and a much higher goal production. But Lego, what are you doing? Matthew Savoy is just another prospect too. There's no gauge as to the talent level of these players just by using stats from the Bantam League. Okay, let's go further. Connor Bedard in that same season, as a 13-year-old, played against the U15 competition, and he had 4 points in 2 games. The next season was this season, where he was 2 points a game against 17 and 18-year-olds. Let's take a look at the WSI U13 tournament. What is WSI? That is the World Select Invitational Tournament. And this is the big collection of really young and really good players. Back when Connor Bedard played for the U13 tournament back in 2018, he had 32 points in 7 games played. That's a great number, but just how good is that number? Well, let's take a look at the history of the WSI U13s. This is the long list of point-per-game records, and Connor Bedard is first with 4.57 points per game. What I did here was I took a spreadsheet of players who played in this tournament and what their points per game were. Here's that list. See these guys? Shane Wright is on here, and in the previous year, he had a 2.38 points per game, also 5 years before he was going to be drafted. Oliver Wahlstrom, who was a top pick in the 2018 draft, had a 1.89 points per game in this tournament. Matthew Savoy had a 1.89 points per game in this tournament, the same guy that we talked about earlier on in the stats for Bantam League. Taking a look at this year's draft, Alexander Holtz 3 years ago had a 1.67 points per game in this tournament. Seth Jarvis had a 1.67 points per game in this tournament. And Atu Ratu, who's going to be first overall next year, had a 1.56 points per game. Cole Perfetti is another one, who was shocking to me to see on this list too, at a 1.17 points per game. And the time frame between when Bedard did this to when Bedard is going to be drafted was the same time frame as everybody else, meaning that the ages, they're pretty similar. The state of their draft stock, in theory, it should be pretty similar. So to have Connor Bedard, when compared to Holtz, Seth Jarvis, Cole Perfetti, Shane Wright, Savoy, and Wahlstrom, dominate in this statistical category, it kind of paints a picture as to how special this player really is. Bedard right now is turning 15 years old, and he's 5'8", 165 pounds. For a 14-year-old guy, he's got a pretty nice frame already. He's bigger than Cole Caulfield. And the guy's still growing. He's gonna become taller, heavier, harder, better, faster, stronger. You get the gist of it. So much so that by the time his name is called on an NHL draft stage in 2023, he will be a very normal-sized NHL player. So that to me is a very good sign too. The fact that he has all of these skills that make him so elite and so up and above the people in his age group that he's going to be playing in the WHL next season as a 15-year-old, assuming the WHL goes on, of course, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop him. This is a player who people have been pegging as a Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby caliber player for years now, ever since he was 13. And Connor McDavid is a guy who started his hype train when he was 13. And the funny thing is, no matter how good Connor Bedard's stats can make him appear, there's another guy who some people are saying could go higher than him in the draft. And that is absolutely scary. Without giving away too much information, because I want to save that topic for another video, we could very well have ourselves the very next generation of Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin, and it would only take 13 years removed from the 2005 draft. That kind of wraps up our video, saying that he might not even go first overall, but I hope this video has educated you to the point where you can kind of understand why the hype around this player is so strong, and understand how the media, the stats, the exceptional status have all combined to create the image of a player who could be on the same path as Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid once were all those years ago. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So should I trust 99. And bye.